Reflect with me if you can. What is it when you got to Vietnam and was your first time in theater 1968? Was that when you first arrived?
No, that was my second tour.
That was your second tour.
In my first tour, I was an advisor with the Vietnamese Marine Corps. Was wounded after about 4 months and evacuated. So this was my second tour.
So this was your second tour. How did you? Oh, okay, I see it here. So 65 was your first tour, and then 60. And I'm reading this, by the way. You were wounded while attacking an NVA machine gun in a rice paddy outside of Saigon.
The Vietnamese unit I was with was the 3rd Battalion. They were going after a base camp of the Viet Cong south of Saigon, and I was with the lead element. And as I was calling in Army helicopters to try to take this out, and got shot in the stomach at that time.
Now, when you got hit with that, did they take you? Did we have in '65? Did we have those MASH units? Did we have a U.S. military there, or was the Vietnamese you had to go to?
No, there was a very brave couple of Army war and helicopter pilots. They took that. There was a Huey with guns on the side. They brought it right around, set it down. They took some rounds through the cockpit. They picked it up and turned their tail back towards where the enemy was. I crawled over and got in, and they took off, took me straight into the Army's 3rd Army Field Hospital. So I was probably in the operating room within about 30, 45 minutes after I was wounded.
Well, that's an incredible turnaround to be able to get in, get out from a hot battle zone to be able to get to the hospital unit so quickly, and it really speaks, I think, to the competency of the men that were there on the ground.
I read a manual about the First World War and said stomach shots were always fatal. So
yes.
It was good to be a little further along in time.
You were breaking the mold on that
right.
one, breaking the odds on that. But that really also became sort of the story of Vietnam, is that there was so much medical innovation that came out of these intense conflicts, these intense situations.
We called it the golden hour. If you could stabilize a Marine and get them out to a medical facility within the golden hour, the odds of surviving were much higher.
Yeah, so that was about 1 hour. So then you get wounded, you come back. What was it like being on the mend and then coming back 3 years later as a commanding officer?
Well, coming back to the States wasn't pleasant because that's when the anti-war elements were pretty high. My parents, for example, there was a picture of me in a local paper. They got those papers with obscenities written over, sent to them, and things like that. So it wasn't pleasant coming back into the States. But going back out as a company commander was almost a dream come true. I'd commanded a platoon. I always wanted to command a rifle company. So to have that opportunity, I valued it.
And just so we get it out, what was your age in 1965? How old were you?
I was 29 years old. I'd been in the Marine Corps since I was 18. I'd been enlisted for a couple of years. So I had a good bit of experience and felt pretty confident.
That's incredible. So, and I want to ask about that. So you get wounded. You take a wound in a conflict that you didn't start yourself, but you'd been ordered to go to, and your parents were getting obscenities about you even coming home after being wounded in combat.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What did your parents say when they got that?
I think they were upset, and to give an indication of what it was like. When I came home from the second tour with my company, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, my wife had to change her phone number to an unlisted number because she got harassing calls. It was just things that shouldn't have been done.
No, it's absolutely things that shouldn't have been done, and you look at the history of it, and I was really, I mentioned before that I was really moved that when we were going through the booklet here and they read the names, it's 7 pages, single spaced, name after name after name of the Marines that didn't make it back.
Yes.
And realizing the intensity, and that's just this company.
It is a lot of casualties. Now, in terms of commanding that company, I often tell folks, if it wasn't for the separation from my family, and if it wasn't for the casualties, that would be my Groundhog Day. I would lead that company for my entire life. Some fantastic Marines and Navy corpsmen. They're living on the edge. It's a certain excitement to it. and some great people around you, both in terms of their professional skills and their courage. So the casualties are obviously something they're just a tragic part of being in the military.
Well, that's exactly right, and I appreciate so much that you and the men and the families are still here, even today, all these years later, that are commemorating, that are standing, and it is about honor, but it's also an act of duty, isn't it?
It is. What most folks don't think about, they think about camaraderie in the military, but it's actually a love for each other. And what we find in the reunions is the first time someone comes, they're a little leery the first afternoon or evening. The second day, they get into discussions, look at photos that were taken there, begin to talk to whatever squad or platoon they were in. By the Sunday morning when they get ready to leave, everybody's in tears. It's just a real emotional event. But there's no way to really explain it unless you've lived it and have that feeling. But it doesn't matter what your walk of life is, anything about your ethnic or religious background, none of that matters. You are a United States Marine, and you've been in combat together. That's what counts.
And you've been United States Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine. And I would have loved, I know that the tavern, they're working on getting it back together. It would be just about a couple of blocks from where we are.
We are in the city where the Marine Corps was born in 1775. John Adams had a maritime commission that they were studying whether we needed a Marine Corps. They decided that we did. They informed the Second Continental Congress, and there was a resolution that established 2 battalions of American Marines. And Samuel Nichols was the first commissioned officer, and he began to recruit Marines, sent drummers and fifers throughout the town, and got the first Marines. So Philadelphia is the home of the Marine Corps.
What does it mean to you that do you think that the Marine Corps, the first recruiting drive, was in a tavern?
Well, that's appropriate. That's where it should have been. No doubt about it.
Now, do you think if we went into Philadelphia taverns today, we'd find some ready and willing and able Marines?
Well, what the Marine Corps always tells these young men, you're not good enough, and then they got to prove themselves. In fact,
right.
One of my favorite stories is of a recruiter recruiters from all the services go into high school, and each of the other services talk about the benefits, the training, what you're going to get out of it.
Right.
And the Marine recruiter walks up there and looks out over the student body, says, I don't think any of you are good enough to be Marines. But if you think you are, I'll be in the back. Come back and see me. And that's how we get the kind of folks we want.